Right. What's going on, everybody? This is Jelani Hashim Bracy, CEO of your favorite nonprofit Black to Life. And this is on our kickback tonight on the Thursday night where we have a conversation to educate and inform and enrich our Black community. So I got two special guests tonight, man. I'm really excited. We have Saba, Quan, Boru. Did I say that right? Boru?
Yes.
Boru, yeah, I apologize. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, ma'am, and then I'm gonna introduce the sir after you.
Well, I'm Saba. I also have a nonprofit organization called the Black Goddess Project. It's been a little slow here lately, but my goals are basically to re-educate our children, reach out more to them. I have an initiative called the Black Love Campaign, in which I host open discussions about Black relationships and how to Black relationships. I'm also an artist, MC, poet. So I definitely engage in art activism. And
cool. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
I said that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much.
That's pretty much.
That's a lot.
For now.
All right, cool. And then we got my partner. I've been knowing this man for over 30 some years, man. Demetrice Dotson, gonna introduce yourself, brother.
Hello, my name is Demetrice Dotson. Like Jelani said, we've been friends since the 4th grade. So we always have informative conversations when we get together about politics, religion, things that are going on in our community. And this is something that he's talked about, that he wants to put together some type of forum where we can specifically talk about what's happening in our community and where we put forth the ideas for our community, someone that looks like us instead of us relying on other outlets that don't look like us to give us information about our community. So I'm here to, pitch into the conversation, the topics that we are talking about tonight.
All right, cool. So let's get to it. Basically, I had alluded to this last week. Shout out to Jada and Will for the inspiration. I want to talk about entanglements. And that word to me was very interesting. So I looked it up. I thought I knew what it meant, and I was pretty much on point. But it's basically, the action or act of entangling or being entangled or caused to become twisted together or caught in a complicated or compromising relationship or situation. So when I was looking at that, I was just like, man, that's basically what, if you're a Black person, period, but especially I can speak to a Black person's experience in America, we are in an entanglement. Like, this is a compromise and a confusing and very complex relationship, because I feel like we're entangled on so many levels where we're confused. And one part is our identity. Like, I honestly think if we actually knew who we were and how powerful we are and where we come from and where that strength is, and actually like why it was held from us. I feel like if we actually know that, if we push that into our children, that's the only way we can ever come up out of anything. Because I believe the revolution first has to start in your mind. Because you ain't gonna do nothing unless you think about something else. Like, you're not gonna be anything better than what you already are thinking, unless you think something else. So, like I said, I feel like that's one of our points is our identity. What do y'all think about that? Saba, you can go first, lady.
As soon as you said the word entanglement, you said we were going to be talking about it tonight, I immediately defaulted to our relationship with America, Black people's relationship and them living in America. Because we always talk about there's this I mean, the only way to really describe it is it being an abusive relationship that we're involved in with the United States. As far as identity is concerned, it's, you know, of course, my background is not something that I really struggle with because my father is Ethiopian. So there's half of me that's like, okay, I don't really know what's going on. But then the other side, I have a direct line to my ancestry, which I know that a lot of Black people don't have. And I figure myself very fortunate to have that. When we talk about that abusive relationship, I guess I like to insert myself in these spaces where we can try to figure out what is the exit strategy? You know, there's a lot of things that we do that I don't agree with, but in mass, you know, you see a lot of protesting, a lot of begging, you know what I mean? I find it comparable to panhandling, because I'm not going to ask or continually ask someone who is abusing me to stop. There's going to be more drastic measures I would have to take in order to get that person to stop, because we've seen incessantly what's happening. So I feel like at this point, I would like something that's more fruitful, because it seems like what we've been doing is a fruitless pursuit and we keep doing the same thing. It's performative, you know, it's symbolic. It isn't really it really isn't yielding any real results, because when I look at Black people and study the history of Black people, I'm always measuring where we are to where we were in antiquity. So what looks like progression to a lot of people, for me, doesn't look like progression because of what we had and where we've been. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Demetrice pick up.
Yeah, Dotson, you wanna pick up on that? We basically talking about the identity factor of the entanglement that we're in this compromised relationship with America.
Well, I think, you know, from the get-go, we have an identity crisis because everything that we have been taught, to piggyback kind of what she said, we've kind of been taught to be in a, I guess, play a submissive role. We don't usually exert ourselves. And when we do exert ourselves, then it's considered violence. And most of the time, we're not committing the violence. It's, if we do commit so-called violence, it's a reactionary thing. Someone shooting bullets at you, so you're going to react to it, or in a situation like that. So, like I said, a lot of our identity is taught to us, and I think what it boils down to is when we were brought over here. I think some people don't like to get on this subject, but it has to do with somewhat of the religion that we were taught, which is Christianity. I'm a Christian, but some of the scriptures that, if you notice, I grew up in a Baptist church and I went to a Pentecostal church. A lot of the things that they focus on in the Bible, it's always about someone being submissive, like you're supposed to love your neighbor. But there are other scriptures in there where it's talking about, you know, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Like there were conflicts in the Bible also, and they actually sometimes they preach these scriptures to us, but they don't actually, I guess, say we need to use these as examples in our lives. When it comes to us actually living our daily life, it always goes back to which you are supposed to love your neighbor, but you're not supposed to actually forget what he's actually done to you, because if you forget, then he's able to repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. And I think me personally, I think a lot of our problem has to do with our religion, and how we practice it. Like, you can love your neighbor, but you can also judge your neighbor off his deeds. And if his deeds are not lining up with the so-called Bible, then you need to separate yourself from that neighbor. Get away from that neighbor, period. Because if he's preaching the Bible with you, you see how politics always, when they want, if they really want to get something up out of us, they introduce religion into it. And when religion is introduced, then it tends to separate us, because everybody has the religion, some type of religion that they practice. Some might be Muslim, some might be Christian, Buddhist, and so on. So to me, going back to what I was saying, our identity has been shaped, I think, by our religion. And I think it needs to be a reevaluation on how we actually, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Actually practice that religion in daily lives. Because if we actually practice the religion that, well, me, I'm a Christian. If you actually practice that religion, then we wouldn't allow some things to happen. I, I was listening to some commentary the other day, how this guy was saying that, Jesus would actually be with the Black Lives Movement, because that's who he was. He was with the downtrodden, and we are the downtrodden. He would be marching right along with the Black Lives Movement. But you have people that are opposing the movement, that are so-called Christians, that are saying that this is some type of violence that's being purported out into the world, and so forth on and so forth, or whatever. So, not to ramble on, but that's my opinion about the entanglement, or the identity.
So to take it back from that part, like, I think a lot of that has to do with being, from being of a thought process of an African American. And what I mean by that is our whole thought process of how to be and who to be is from being here. So everything we think about is about from being in this country, which our divinity comes from beyond this country. Like, so when we think about being here, we think about automatic subjugation. Like, we came from being downtrodden, we came from being this. So, we come asking, like Saba said, and I've heard that sentiment that, saying the words Black Lives Matter, like telling somebody that your life matters. Like, that's like, if you tell somebody you love them, the reason you're saying you love them because you want them to know. It ain't because of you. You want that person to know. So when you're saying like Black Lives Matter, it's like you want somebody else to know that. And we don't need, in my opinion, we don't need nobody else to know that but us. But since we come from in my opinion, we come from this African American way of thinking, because that's the shape that we come from. Like, as an African American, when you started here, you started from the bottom, and then you were able to rise through the top of who or whatever, or you were given freedom. So if you see that you're giving something from somebody, then you look at them a whole different way. And that's why you can accept the religion on you. And that's why you can accept, because like I said, with that identity thing, our culture was torn from us. So that includes religion, because we were spiritually on something else, like totally. And that's not even recognized. That was just taken, our native tongue was taken from us. Our music, everything. Like, they didn't take it from, they made us, try to hide it, and we still held on to it, but it was demonized as not the way to be. So if you look at what Africa is, if you're born in this country as African American, you don't see anything of value if you're looking just totally from that point of view. And that's what I want to get our kids up out of it, because when it starts when you in school, like you learn from being in school, like who the greatest people were, and they're all Europeans and they're all Americans. You never learn of the great Nile River. Like they talk about Egypt, like Egypt is not in Africa. I remember being taught school, like they talk about like Egypt was like a mystical place, and these was just like different than everybody else. These were black people, and you know they just and the education was not meant for it to be transparent to where we could see that. But now with social media, Google, and everything else, like you have no reason not to be informed. And I think we can reach a whole lot more people, a whole lot more children now that we have platforms like this and just information that we can tell them. But that was just my two pieces on that. When I was talking about identity, it's like I think we start from here, and we need to start from the motherland, like where we actually from. And when we think of that as our genesis, our whole mindset going, because we thinking of something else. We ain't thinking of an enslaved person having to come up or having to, be struggle for American dream. We're not thinking of that. We're thinking of kings, queens. We're thinking of astronomers. We're thinking of doctors. We're thinking of all kind of like successful just people, and the gods and goddesses that we are in the universe. Like that's what we learn, how we navigated the world before anybody ever did. They never taught us that, but if you ever learn that, then I think your whole mindset will be different, because I feel like you'll feel like you're owed something, or like this is mine. I don't have to ask for it. So that's my opinion. Any more thoughts on that before we get out of here to a next subject?
Say something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So generationally, it's like this distorted mentality that's been passed down. And so you have us coming here, and the relationship with white people is owner to property or slave. And then you have the religion aspect, and all of the symbols are white people. God is white, Jesus is white, everything. The person that you're supposed to pray to and ask for things is a white person, doesn't look like you. So I think that mentality is still permeating throughout our Black society today. So then you have all of this validation seeking and this need for acceptance, which I think explains a lot of the behaviors that we're seeing, because that's still stuck. You know what I'm saying? That mentality is still here, that there's a owner to property relationship, or white God to servant, or whatever it is. It's like there's always this undercurrent of subservience that's there, and that's shaping our identity in our behaviors. That was it.
Dotson? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dotson, you care to comment on that? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
We can roll.
Yeah.
I think we come into, because I'm in agreement with that. Like I said, that African American is the mentality, and like I said, we've been changed. Our identity has been changed so much, and not even by us. We've been given names, nothing that we called ourselves. From my understanding, in the ancient back in the day, people from Africa didn't call them South African. They called them like wherever they were from. I'm a Ghanaian, I'm Kenyan, I'm Nigerian. They didn't attribute themselves to a whole continent. It was like countrymen, that's where they're from. So when they try to just put labels on us, it's always from somewhere else. And like you said, it's the master or owner property relationship. And I really feel that we get out of that and go back to the motherland where we came from before that was ever even put into our society. That's just something we can come out of because, hey, man, if you think about it, if you really, there's no way we would take certain things or even ask for certain things if you knew where you were from and who you are. So to another point, another entanglement that we have, I think we're entangled within this country in economics. Basically, that enough of us, we in that compromised, confused state of enough of us are not owners and creators, and we're just consumers. So we're wrapped into a cycle of 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 constantly supporting those that devalue us because of the system that have been set up through generations of Jim Crow, slavery, just blatant out racism, just oppression and basically just straight terrorism against our people. So yeah, those systems are set up already, and we're flowing through them in this complicated and confused situation. And it's like, you need groceries, you need a car, you need a house, you need some clothes, you need some socks. And most of the producers and originators and creators, well, the ones that have patents, not that they made them up, but the most of the people that have the businesses that offer these services are white, and they don't look like us, and we don't, and we're not able to perpetuate or generate any generational wealth in our own community. So we're basically locked into a situation where we're actually paying kind of for our oppression. Like we're paying to be treated this way because that if everything's on lock, but everything isn't on lock. Like we just don't have enough of producers and originators and creators. We have them in our communities. We don't, and a lot of us don't support them enough. And a lot of us are not becoming those because we've become comfortable. Like I said, this entanglement has made us comfortable in just, going on an app or buying some or going here. It's easier to go to this store that's serving the same thing as the black store that may be like 10 miles down the street because it's convenient that they can set theirs up in conglomerates and in franchises. But I got to go way over here, and you might have to drive a little ways to go somewhere to get black because of the way the system is set up now. But that's the way you get black businesses closer to you. Like you have to continue to celebrate and to promote and to support those businesses, and that way more businesses can open other places. But if you give up, then that one business that was there is gonna go by the wayside. Like you can't. We got to be diligent in this. Like I really believe in Newton's first law of motion. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. Like with the same vigilance and the same intensity that was done to destroy us has to be done to rebuild us. And we got to come with it and be relentless. Like we can't take no days off. Like if it's 10 miles down there, man, if you got a car, if you able, man, go. Support that sister, support that brother. Like go, man. It means the world to them. And don't worry about trying to explain yourself or why you got to. I see a lot of people on some of these comments explaining like, well, isn't that reverse racism if you just go to black businesses? What about all the white businesses? Like, what about them? What about them? Nothing. Like, no, and I hate when people try to go back and forth. I'm like, man, I wouldn't say nothing. I'm like, you ain't tell me where to spend my money. Like, that's what you're not gonna do. You're not gonna tell me where to spend my money. I want to spend my money with my people. And if you need to know why that reason is because they're my people. That's it. Like I want to build my people up. I want to build my community up, and I want to build the world up better for my children coming up behind me. Because I want my children to be able to look at something and look at a person or look at me and be like, man, I could do that. I want to do that. And be able to look at it and be somebody that looks like us, that they look at it. Don't have to look at another, another group of people because we need that. Like I said, we need the same amount of energy that it took to destroy to rebuild. So what do y'all think about that the economic piece of entanglements, if you will? Anybody?
Is she gonna go?
Huh?
Who's next?
One of y'all?
I'll go. Uh, I definitely think we are entangled economically. And of course, it's all rooted in the way we came here. Of course, we came here as slaves. Well, I guess a little bit of indentured servitude, just a small, minute percentage of it, but basically slavery. And even after slavery was abolished, and we started setting up our own communities and trying to build something for ourselves, then they came through and bombed it, tore it down. Um, so I guess that mentality has always been there. Like we've all, if you, like you said, if we go back to Africa where we were already entrepreneurs, we were already business owners. All these things were already set up. The mindset was already there. So when we got brought over here, even though we were in some way what oppressed, the mindset was always there. As you can see, as soon as we were brought up out of slavery, we immediately went into trying to build something for ourselves. So the mindset never changed. The mindset is still here today. It's just there's always some pushback there. There are so-called like laws. If you look at it, you remember we were having this conversation about affirmative action. To me, affirmative action is working in the reverse way. If you're supposed to create a law that it's supposed to create more access to employment, then in theory, you're supposed to have a large group of people that are supposed to take advantage of that, the people that you're targeting that. But to me, we're not experiencing affirmative action. The people that are experiencing and have always experienced affirmative action are the Caucasian individuals. Because if you go and look at access to jobs, who has all the jobs? Who has all the businesses? Who's in all the management positions? They're the ones that are getting affirmative action. So to me, as far as the entanglement, I'll go a little bit further. How we're going to uh, have to stop the entanglement, it it has to be on two fronts. One front is, of course, we need to start creating businesses for our own, uh, by us, and we have to support those businesses. But then, further than that, the laws that are on the books that are designed to keep that entanglement uh, to allow it to continue, then we have to start electing individuals. Like I think we have, like our elected officials. I think they do a good job knowing the circumstances that they are subjected to. They are in a small minority, but I think moving forward, we need to start electing people that are a lot more aggressive on certain fronts. Uh, like a lot more pushback when certain measures are being put into place, are trying to be put into place. So going back to what she was talking about, like about the marching part, how we were always marching, asking for something. Where it starts at is the pen. Like the pen is more powerful than the sword. That's how they always get us with the pen. So I think we need to be more focused on the pen part, the actual legislation that can be put into place to actually further, like undo the entanglement, undo the not only undo the entanglement, but give you access to uh promoting like black businesses and things like that. But you have to have the individuals in place that are going to pursue that vigorously and aggressively in the same way that, like you say, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like they need to go at it in that manner. Like there needs to be a great push to where, okay, there needs to be a line drawn in the sand. Like, okay, you either give us the bills that you know that will work for us, then we'll just separate ourselves. Like we'll start supporting our business if we can ever get our mindset that. That's the problem. The problem is the mind. And really, if you think about it, every time we've had someone to get us in that mindset, they have been assassinated. Anytime we have someone that starts talking about, and they get into the heads of the masses of Black people, every time we get somebody, whether it was Marcus Garvey, whether it was Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all those people, they were trying to get us to start thinking in our minds of what we need to do to better our community. And every time we've had those individuals, they've gotten knocked off to end those entanglements. So I guess I think about this every day, to be honest with you. Who are going to be the new leaders that are going to rise up and say, you know, enough is enough. Like it's
We
time.
are.
Yeah. Enough is enough. It's time for us to either, you know, not give it to us, because it's not that they're supposed to give us anything. It's we're owed these things. Like
They need to get out the way.
yeah. We need to have these things so we can if you're complaining about, you know, crime infested communities, well, if you give us an opportunity to clean our communities up, then we can get rid of that. And part of doing it is economic access. If people have got jobs, then they wouldn't be doing all this robbing and things like that. They have money in their pockets. I gave you the analogy the other day, like if you set a garbage can outside and the dog comes by, a stray dog is going to break off into that garbage can because he's hungry. So if a stray dog is going to break off into a garbage can, you know what a human being is going to do. He's a lot smarter than the dog. But if you give that dog food, you don't see that stray dog anymore because he's being fed. He's had an opportunity to better his conditions, so he's not even thinking about breaking in the garbage can anymore. So that's where that entanglement, like going back to that, I kind of use that analogy though, but that entanglement has to stop, and it's through economic access and through the pen action.
Yeah, and to that point, kind of to allude to your analogy, Pac said that a long time ago. Like he said, we was asking in the 50s, we was asking in the 60s, we was asking in the 70s, and he said the noise is going. At first, it was like we hungry, give us some food, we hungry, and then next thing it's gonna be like I'm busting through the door, I'm picking the lock. Like for real, like that's what's next, you know. Oh, go ahead, Saba. I'll let you go ahead. But to that point, I mean, we've had people that said this time and time again, like economic access. Like you can't just, you know, act like everything is just, you know, you can't take shit, give us nothing, and then act like it's just gonna be like everything gonna be cool, and then just demonize us for what the conditions you put us in. You know what I'm saying? So, like you said, we are gonna have to be the leaders that demand that change, because ain't no waiting on nobody else. Because it ain't gonna happen unless it's gonna start with us. Oh, but Saba, you was about to say something?
I think that the key word is convenience, and how Black people need to be willing to forfeit those conveniences. Right now, it's 2020. Everybody's gravitating toward whatever's convenient for them, and it's not always convenient to shop Black owned, you know, but we have to be very intentional about it, because our support is what sustains those businesses. And if we're ever going to be self-reliant, and if we believe in self-preservation, that's what needs to happen. So we're going to have to
forfeit the convenience. Carter G. Woodson talked about this in The Miseducation of the Negro, and I can't say that I was completely taken aback, but it was disheartening to see that some of the same issues that he was talking about in 1933, the same narrative exists today. And one of the things he was talking about was Black people who were not supporting Black businesses. And the so-called educated Negroes were who were taught by their white, quote, superiors. You know what the narrative is going to be with them when they were taught in their economics classes that Negroes can't have successful businesses. So when someone in the neighborhood is trying to start a business, then there's a lack of support because, oh, well, we already know they expect the businesses to fail. And this was happening in 1933. So I'm looking at the same thing happening now. There's still a lack of support for Black businesses. And so I think it all goes back to what you were saying, or both of you were saying about the mindset. When are we going to actually change the mindset so that some of these things we can see some progress on and aligning with those people who kind of think the same?
Yeah, I think we have to, when we do, like you said, the convenience of it, take your kids with you, or take a friend. Like you got to make this mind, like put a pattern in their head, like this is a practice. Like, you know, we're going here to get this, we're going here to get that, we're doing this, and your kids remember, like, man, we used to do this. And they'll look for stuff like that. Like they'll like my name, Jelani. Like I was going, when I had children, I knew I was gonna name my children African names. I knew that because my parents put that in me early. They gave me my name, told me what it was, told me what it meant, continued to instill pride. So I was like, yeah, when I had children, I'm gonna name my children African name. That's what I'm gonna do. And I did that. So that, and like I said, that was a practice though, because I was told what my name was, I was told what it meant, I was made to feel proud of that. So I think if we make our children our immediate circle, like if we just keep going every time we go somewhere, like, hey man, where you going? You know, where we start hanging out afterward. But like if your partner be like, where you going? You like, well, I'm going to this restaurant, I'm going here, I'm going there. They're gonna be like, well, maybe, you know, I'm gonna come along with you, or maybe they'll keep doing their thing. But I think if you put it in their mind, it's out there, like, we're gonna go here, and we're gonna start doing this, we're gonna start patronizing these people, this product, that product. I think it's just be a wealth of just Black support, and that's all we have to do. So going back to you alluded to it, Saba, just a minute ago, being taught, and that's another entanglement, I believe, besides the economics and our identity, is also our education. We're entangled within this education system, which basically denies our existence, denies who we actually are, and we're trapped. You know, when you're in the system, you know, you got to put them in school, some kind of school, or you're going to jail. So if you don't homeschool, which a lot of people don't, that convenience of putting them in public school or private school, they're going to get an education that is going to be, our Black kids are going to get an education that is going to be probably not attributed to who we are. We're going to learn from a Eurocentric Western philosophy of things, such as when the Europeans discovered the New World. New to who? You know, it's coming from their point of view. It was new to them. They had to colonize this place and make it civilized to their standards. So we learn civilizations are, you know, by their standards. We're not taught like people were actually, you know, living pretty good life. Like they don't really need anything, and we're taught from a point of view like the settlers were, you know, downtrodden and the winters were cold, and it's a romanticized story about how the natives took care of them and got them through that first winter, and the colonies thrived. They just left all that slavery and genocide out. They left all that out. It was just so wonderful, and that's how it's presented to our children as the Thanksgiving, and everybody was so just and like I said, we're trapped in that cycle to where if we don't tell our kids, then they won't know. And if we weren't taught that we wouldn't know. I was blessed to have a mother that was a history teacher. My dad just wasn't for it. He wasn't about none of that BS. So I used to ask my mom, like I told the story a couple of times. Our books, like when I used to read my little kids' books back in the day, my mom and dad, and I never knew this, but all my characters were black, but they used to color all the characters with a brown crayon. So every time I read them Dick and Jane books, I was, reading about black kids. Like that's what I thought. Never thought it was colored. Like when I found out there was a white Santa Claus, it blew my mind. I never seen a white Santa Claus because I thought Santa Claus was black. Because my daddy was Santa Claus, my uncle was Santa Claus, my mama took the ornament thing that you buy and drew that thing brown. So I never saw. So when I saw one, I think it was like in school, like if I was 5 in kindergarten, when I saw one, I immediately just had to think like, man, I guess everybody got their own Santa Claus. Cause I was like, that ain't the one I see. Like I like that ain't the one. But I never put in my head like, oh, that's a fake Santa Claus. That ain't real. That's not Santa Claus. And I was like, no, I guess because we live in an apartment, so I already had to make sense by not coming down the chimney because I ain't had no chimney. So I was like, Santa had to come a whole nother kind of way for me, and I knew Santa took cash. Santa I had because if we couldn't afford it, I wasn't gonna get it. That's what I was told. So Santa Claus wasn't no magical person that brought these gifts that everything you asked for. Like, nah, you can circle everything in that catalog, but you probably ain't gonna get it. Like we ain't got the money for it, you ain't gonna get it. So, like I said, the education piece, we weren't our traditions, our culture was not added to that, were not included. So we're forced to get if you choose to get into this American education system, we're forced to get in the education system that first of all provides us with poor schools because the schools are funded on local property taxes to where redlining, gentrification, and just outright blatant racism and underfunded neighborhoods put our neighborhoods in dire straits. So our property values are well undervalued. So that gives us less money to our schools. Then you close our schools down and say we got school choice. But everybody's not going to be able to get a voucher and everybody can't go cross town. So what you going to do about those, most of the kids in the neighborhood that go to the neighborhood school that could walk, that don't have a ride, that didn't have anywhere to go? They're going to be left out here. So they, instead of taking those funds that they're taking from us, instead of putting them more funds in to put up our education, they take them away and just sometimes a neighborhood school is like the last semblance of a community that a neighborhood has sometimes. And sometimes that just makes and keeps the neighborhood together. And sometimes when they take those things away from us, it just, breaks us down. Like there's no coincidence that at the same time schools in Chicago were closing, that crime was rising. That's not a coincidence. So I think with an entanglement of education, we have to step into that and educate ourselves and like fight for our children and for our schools to stay open. And a lot of times, what a lot of us have started doing, taking our kids out of school and doing it ourselves, like homeschooling. Like that's another option that Black people can look into. People have been doing this for years. We can look into this too, and that may be a viable option for you especially if they close the schools down in your neighborhood and you're not able to qualify for these school choice programs and voucher programs, because not all of us are going to be able to do that. So what do you think on that educational piece of the entanglements that we suffer? Agree, disagree?
I pretty much with everything we're seeing. Dr. John Henry Clark says that we've been left out of the respectful commentary of world history. And I keep thinking, like, how do you offer a world history class and there isn't an origin story that talks about Africa at length? You know what I mean? So what I've done with my daughter, because she is in the public school system, is supplemental teaching. If your child's going to be a part of a public school district, like, you need to be doing some supplemental teaching at home. There's no way that you can send those kids to school, Black kids to school, and allow them to learn white accomplishments and you don't teach them about their own, or you don't empower them with the information about themselves. There's no way. You are doing your child a disservice if you're not introducing them to people that look like them, important, prominent African figures. So I'm all for African-centered schools. If we can actually pool our resources and actually have them open and operating and it be legit, like, I'm all for that. It's a little late in the game for my daughter because she's going into high school. So right. she's gonna finish out, but she's going to our track is Howard University. So right on. I talked to her about how important it is to go to an HBCU, you know, to learn about your history. Like, if you can take an hour out of your day and learn their history, you can take some time to learn about yours. And I think that that's super important. After school programs, you know, if the kids aren't in African-centered programs, African-centered schools or African-centered programs, the after-school programs, getting people who can go and mentor those kids and have some type of curriculum that they're learning about themselves. I think it's important.
Yes, and that's one reason we do what we do at Black to Life, because we want to be able to educate our kids on who we are. And that's a reason that me and the chairman of our nonprofit, we wrote books, because we wanted them to see characters that look like them, that represented people that they could see in the neighborhood. Like, we wanted our kids and our people to see us in another light, that they're, especially my book, when I wrote about a daddy's one, like I there's not many books about Black fatherhood that are with children books, like that are cartoon books and you know, picture books. So I decided to do that because I wanted at least my children to see people and representation of themselves, and I wanted other kids to be able to see that. Like, I just thought that was important. I think, and anybody can write a book. I know if I could do it, anybody can do it. Like, if you want to have your own representation, your own message, like, put that out there. Like, we are the masters of our faith, the captains of our soul, to quote Invictus. Like, we are, and we just have to do that and get together and just push it. Like you said, just push it. And like you said, some of us are late in the game, like with your daughter, but you do that supplemental learning, because if you can take an hour to learn about somebody else, you can damn sure take an hour to learn about yourself. Like, who you are. Like, that is the essence of everything. If you don't know who you are, like you said, Saba, how you gonna have a you without an origin? You got to have an origin. Where do you start? Where do you begin? It wasn't here, you know. Some now it depends, because some of us have those native indigenous people backgrounds. Some of us were here, but it wasn't as a place of servitude. That's my whole point. we did not start as subjugated people. We started off as people of great regalness and royalty. And that's who we were. Like Dotson said earlier, entrepreneurs. We already was doing this. We was navigating this world before anybody was. Like we was out here. It's documented. It is. We've been. That's why it was already brown people everywhere you went. Because we was going places. We was already there. We was already there. That's why every Aboriginal person has a tint to their skin.
Absolutely.
That's everybody. When they say Aborigines, talking about us. When they talk about original, they talking about us, man. In our different forms and fashions, the whole diaspora. And that's what one thing Garveyism attacked. Like it was a whole Pan-African movement under Marcus Garvey in the 1920s. The UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Association, had over 3 million Africans and Black people worldwide. That's to this day is the biggest African or African American group to ever exist. Like worldwide, they had 3 million people just in one group, and that was in 1920. Like right, I mean that was, to me, that was amazing, man. And Garvey taught us the way. Like he taught us we could do it ourselves. Like we could do it ourselves, and I think we just need to input that in our children and in our communities, in our friends, everybody we walk up on, because with the identity part, the economics and the education, that's all on us. And that's all a knowing of who we are and a support of what we're doing. If we do that, we'll be good. But we can't be sitting there making excuses of why we don't do it or why we won't do it, or we just gotta do it. It's time out for that. We gotta do it, man. Because ain't nothing, if we don't get together, well, we need to get together. Like ain't no if. We need to get together because that's the only way we're gonna make it about this thing. Because time has proven there's nowhere in history that proven that there's another race of people or group of people that is gonna look out for us. Like it's been proven. So let's not wait for that, and let's have a meaningful movement. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to be able, when we move, we got to be able to be moving forward, not just moving in place. We got to be able to be moving forward, and everything we need to be doing has to be that way. And I think if we continue to push that message within our community, within our people, our families, we just got to keep doing it. And these platforms and these organizations, we just need to continue to support each other, and that's how we're gonna get up out of this. Dotson, did you have something to say about the educational piece?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I guess kind of piggybacking off what you all were saying. I think we need to definitely encourage especially when you look at your child's curriculum. A lot of times, if you look at what they're offering in school, sometimes they might have an African American appreciation class. Because I was shocked, to be honest with you, when was it? Our senior year in high school, and and that was the first year they offered it, African American appreciation, African history or something at our high school, and Miss Evans taught it, and that's when she started going through. I was never taught this stuff. She started going through all the Black inventors, what we had invented, what we were in Africa, and all these things. But that was offered in a public school. So I think we as parents, if we're not doing any supplemental, we need to first look at what they're offering in school. And I know, Saba, you said it's too late for your daughter. It's not too late. Once she gets to college, if it hasn't been drilled down to her on the high school level, I think when our kids go to college, then we can also say, hey, I know they offer it, because they do offer them in college. Instead of you taking this class right here, I forgot what they actually offer. It's so long, but we need to focus on some type of African American appreciation class, something that is going to educate our kids about us. We need to.
No, I was saying for my daughter, it's too late for me to like transfer her and get her acclimated into an African centered school because
okay. I apologize.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Yeah, she got that down. I was about to say that, like, yeah, I don't think her daughter got no question about who she is. None.
Yeah, but yeah, we definitely need to start getting our kids to gravitate towards those courses. If not in a organized educational form at home, we need to present those types of books to them to show them, like, hey, I don't care what they teach you in school. This is what's really going on. This is what we're really about, where we really came from, what our origins are. So that's my.
It's difficult though, because as pro-Black as I am, I have to try to instill these principles in my daughter over and over again. And I don't want to necessarily force her to read about her history. I want her to take an active interest in it herself, you know, but sometimes you just have to force it and then say, hey, thank me later, you know. But I'm not about to have you investing so much into their curriculum and not have you invest into your own history and your origin story.
Yes. And also, we don't need to be, I see a lot of people trying to be, well, not a lot, but some people, it's enough to bother me, apologetic about, you know, being that way. Like, you know, even the attack of HBCUs sometimes is ridiculous. It's like, I mean, all right, versus PWI, for those that don't know, that's a predominantly white institution. HBCU is historically Black colleges and universities. So to hear even Black people say there's no need for HBCUs, it bothers me to the core, because the reason that they say that is because you can go anywhere. And I'll just tell you this, and I hate using comparisons, but if you look at Notre Dame, St. John's, Georgetown, all these were Roman Catholic schools that were created because why? Because Catholics were being persecuted in America because they couldn't go to state schools. So they had to make these schools, Notre Dame and all, like I said, but nobody's trying to close Notre Dame. Nobody has ever said we're gonna close Georgetown down because now Catholics can go to school anywhere they want to. I know that's a message. I just don't like when we repeat it. I don't care who else says it. When we start repeating it and start saying, like, for instance, you see a little wave of high school basketball players committing to HBCUs now, and that's a good look in my opinion. That's a good look. But I see a lot of people saying, well, I don't know if this is going to be sustain this trend, or man, they're not going to be seen. I'm like, why would you try to discourage that? Like, do you understand HBCUs was created because there was no other option? And that's where all the athletes, that's where all our politicians, that's where all our entertainers, that's where everybody that was anything in the Black community came from. If you went to college, because you couldn't go nowhere else but to HBCU. If you went to college, that's where you was going. And we produced the best. We produced the best. Like, why do you not want to embrace that? Because you can go somewhere else. That's fine. You can go somewhere else, but don't forget what was made for you. Like, you have a home, right? You can go somewhere else. You can go visit them, but don't forget where you set root. Like, this is your house. Like, this was made for you. Like, this is yours. That's what and that bothers me sometimes, where I used to remember people was like, they back in the day, they used to talk when we was in school, like, you need to go to certain schools for this, for that, to get that name on your degree. And I purposely went to a Black school. First of all, my mama and them was on, they told me early I wasn't going to anywhere else with a HBCU. They said I wasn't going nowhere. So that was fine with me. But then I took it as an offense and an actual challenge when I got it in high school. Like, I'm going to HBCU. and I'm gonna be a success. Like I was like, I am. Like y'all think because these names are Yale and Harvard, and no disrespect to them, whatever. If you want to go there, that's cool. But yeah, I went to Alcorn and Russ. Like I was like, I'm going to a black school. It's about who you are. You're the talent. That's what you gotta realize. You are the talent, and you take your talents to your people. Keep it close. That's what I'm about, man. That's how you build up. That's how you build up our schools. You take your talents there. If you take the best talent, which we always had, and I mean we had to do back in the day because we had no choice. It's like now that we have a choice. I asked my mom about that, like why, you know, she was different, just always getting, black this and black that. And I was wondering, like, where did that come from? Because a lot of people they want to go to a Duke or North Carolina. Nothing wrong if you want to go there, but like they look down on the HBCUs to the North Carolina A&Ts, the Fayetteville States to go there. Like you don't have to look down on them to pick something. But I asked her like why she didn't, fall for that or like what was in it. And she like, we never got integrated. She said she never got integrated, so she never had any kind of thought process of white being better. It was always, I was raised by black, I was always in the black community. So she like, I never thought to think anything was better than us. And true to form, that's how we was raised. Me and my sister was raised like that. Like I never thought anybody was better than black people. I never thought that anybody was better than us, period. Like nothing. Like nobody. I used to wonder why people was on the People magazine as most beautiful person or handsome. I was like, where did that come from? Like, who did they ask? Because I'm looking at the Jet and Ebony magazine, and that's where I'm seeing beauty. The Jet Beauty. I used to go to the Jet magazine every week. Jet Beauty of the Week. That's what I was looking for every time I was in the grocery store. We didn't buy it. I just want to look and see where she was from. I was imagining like, all right, gotta put it back. But I've always was taught that black was beautiful, black was everything, and I never thought that it was less than. So I teach that with my children as well, man. And I think that that's what we have to push to our people, So hey y'all. I ain't got nothing else.
Hey, last little point. You said that that irritates you because people are saying, kind of, shunning the HBCUs. Well, going back to what you said, it's that lack of knowledge up there. People don't know the origin. A lot of times people don't even know the origins of HBCUs. Why did they come about? Why did they actually have them set up for us? Well, we couldn't go nowhere else. And the reason for that was pure racism. They wouldn't allow us to go to white colleges. So if you can go back in your mind and say these things were set up for us, by us, for the benefit of us, then you would be less likely for someone to be saying, hey man, you shouldn't be going to those places. You should be looking into another place. So that goes back into disseminating the information amongst the kids, our kids, if we're going to encourage them, which of course I didn't get a chance to go to the HBCUs at the time. All my friends went, but they didn't have the engineering program, which I do love now that a lot of the HBCUs they're getting all the curriculums across the board. That's the only reason I didn't go, because Jackson State didn't have an engineering program at the time. So going back, we need to start, I guess, sharing that knowledge to our kids, because I want to encourage my daughter to go to HBCU, but I need to start putting that into her, not only to go, but the reason why you should go and why the whole history behind HBCU, so they can get the totality of what the experience is about. Why you not from the beginning of when it was created, why it was created, and why you should go. So that's my last.
Yeah, man. Saba, any last words or anything else you want to dive into? Any other entanglements you want to bring up?
No, I can't think of anything right now.
Okay. Cool. Well, you know what? I just want to thank both of y'all for joining. And we're gonna have these every Thursday, man. We're gonna be talking about something. And it's always gonna be something dealing with us and how we gonna improve. And tonight we was talking about these entanglements of our identity, our education, and our economics in this country. And you know, basically it turns out to be that we got to take care of that ourselves. And the way we untangle ourselves is basically by knowledge, support, and I'm actually love. And I know those sound like cliches, but if you actually get the knowledge of yourself, you're gonna love yourself and you're gonna support those that look like you and others. And like we have to, you know, well, we've all been saying, Saba, you brought it up to the point, we gotta come uncomfortable because and get inconvenience to do what we gotta do because living in this convenience is inconvenient. If you think about it, like the convenience of the way we live is very inconvenient to our culture. It's very inconvenient to who we are. If you actually think about who we are and where we're from. So I'd like to leave us on that note and catch y'all next Thursday. Appreciate y'all, good people.
Next Thursday, the same time, I will be here in the building.
All right now. I'll let y'all.
All right, man.
Peace. All right.
Yeah, I'm about to hit you up, man.